Hi guys, hello everybody. Welcome to Soul Search with Jane and Polly. And we have a lovely guest today. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Certainly, thank you. For anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Bryony Best. I'm also known as the girl from Pompey, and I am quite well known for publishing some scarily truthful, honest, raw books that are based on spiritualism, mental health, and drink and drug addiction.
Wow.
So I am very lucky because I have read some of your books and I'm still working
Mm.
my way through them, and I thoroughly enjoy them. But also I enjoy them because they are raw and they are truthful, and you've been really honest about your own journey.
Yeah.
So our show today is about a lot of things to do with death, which I suppose for free mediums as well, that's sort of pretty much our job. We're going to talk about near death experiences. Is there life after death? We obviously all believe there is, but people out there may not. And really, whatever else comes up in that category. Hence why my poster that went up to advertise this show was someone walking up the staircase. Because do they walk up that staircase, shut the door, and never be seen again? Or do they go somewhere better? Polly, as you haven't had a near death experience, what do you want to start off with?
Well, let's start off with me because I haven't had a near
What
death
about
experience
Polly?
and I haven't nearly died. And I'm just touching wood because I did that just before we came on that I'm not going to have a near death experience. I mean, if it happens, it happens. As long as I come back, I've got too much to do at the moment to pop off. But yeah, I mean, so I'm going to start like kicking off about life after death. Now, as I've said on previous shows and previous situations that we've been on, my understanding of life after death came very, very early on in my life. So when I was probably three, nearly four, that was my first experience of seeing spirit. And it was my grandfather, not that I knew that at the time, sitting near my bedroom door, because I would not go to sleep. No way would I go to sleep. I hated dark. I had spirits in my cupboard, which had no door on it, that were playing around there. And then my dad, who usually would have been the person sitting at my door, looking after me, making sure I'd gone to sleep. I woke up in the middle of the night knowing that he wasn't going to be there. So instant terror, because I knew that I was going to be scared. If you can hear any snorting, it's my dog. And the thought of that initially waking up and being terrified, it was literally, I could feel the terror. And I don't know why, just how I was. I used to have all sorts of weird, wacky dreams even then. And so I'd sort of woken up, knew that somebody was there, which was weird, but I knew it wasn't going to be my dad, and saw this figure at my door, and he didn't look like my dad. My dad, isn't as slim as this gentleman that was sitting near the door, and he was all pixelated. And he had a bald head, bit of hair at the side, and round glasses on. And, like I said the story before, I went downstairs the next morning, but I must have gone back to sleep. In my head, I'd sort of said, "Who are you?" And I could hear grandfather. But both of my grandfathers had already passed away before I was even born. So there was no way I would have even at that age known what they looked like or had any idea about them. So I'd gone down the next morning, and I said to my mum I'd had a funny dream, and that this man was sitting near my door, and I described him. I mean, the only thing was he was sort of slightly pixelated, and she had come in then with a picture and said, "Is this him?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "That's your grandfather." I sort of already knew that because and this is from such a young age. And I mean, from then, at such an early age, obviously then in my head, I'm trying to perhaps categorize that, I mean, any other normal child would be running, in the 1970s would be, I don't know, playing outside, skipping around, playing with all the old fashioned 1970s toys and blah, blah, blah. Where I am sort of living this double life, if you like, of trying to fit in as a normal person, a normal child. And I was very shy, very sensitive. And then there's other part of me, which I still think couldn't probably put it into a category, because when you're so young, you can't, can you? You can't, I mean, you either think everybody can do it, or you feel like you're a bit weird and you can do something, and um, you don't talk about it. Now, I was the latter. I didn't talk about it. To me, it felt weird. My brothers never said anything like that. They never mentioned that they could see anything, or they had unfamiliar men sitting at their door that was all pixelated, that sort of thing. And the other thing was my haunted wardrobe. So in the haunted wardrobe, there was this man that looked like a soldier with a red sort of jacket on, and then two children. Now, why they're in my wardrobe, I don't know, but my imagination perhaps wasn't vivid enough at that early age to have made them up. Does that make sense? But I knew they were there, and if I always slept facing the wall because I was scared that if I turned around that they were going to be there, or they were going to be looking at me, or something. But they never seemed to come out of the wardrobe, so I always felt protected in a way from them. Don't know who they were. Don't think they were any way related. So yeah, from a really early age, I had to learn that there was a whole other, let's say, obviously at that age, I wouldn't have put it like this,
Whole
but
other realm
a
of
whole
people.
other realm of that no one's really dead, no one's really gone. And even if they have gone, they can still sit on a chair at my door to protect me. Does that make sense? So it was almost like very soothing now in life, thinking I was protected right back then, and somebody was looking out for me. So when I was going to wake up scared, my dad wasn't there because he was probably snoring away in bed. But it was very physical looking back. Like I could see it wasn't just like a two-dimensional picture. It was very three-dimensional in how I was seeing him. He was sat on the chair. He wasn't looking at me. He was just sort of, it's almost like head in hand, sort of looking forward. But that was my
Experience a
first
lot.
ever experience.
So, Bryony, what about you?
Mine's quite interesting, really, because I was brought up in a Catholic household. It wasn't really pushed on me, though. I wasn't made to go to church or learn any of their beliefs or ways. But as a very young child, I used to have dreams that would petrify me. And they would petrify me because 9 times out of 10, they used to come true. And I used to share my dreams with my best friend at the time, my next door neighbour. And I remember one particular dream, which I won't really share because it's a bit dark, if I'm honest. And luckily, touch wood, that one actually didn't come true. But most of the time they did, to the point that I was the child that would turn around and say, I had a dream about granddad. And then my mum would pull a face. And then a few days later, we'd get the phone call or something bad would happen. We'd know that that person was going to pass on. So when I was very, very young, so under the age of 10, I had dreams, and I also had, so going back to the 80s now, I used to display my cassettes on my dressers in my room, and my cassettes used to get knocked over. And that's something that stayed with me as I started getting towards the age of like 11, 12. My cassettes would get knocked over, and my bed would literally go up and down, which I knew was children jumping on my bed. But I didn't mind it. I found it quite comforting. And I still get it
Ah,
sometimes to this day, but not as often as a child. I had it through my whole childhood, if I'm honest. So it started off just as the premonitions and the dreams and the bed going up and down. And I didn't have any training. So I would be stood next to someone or sat next to someone on the bus, and I would have this wealth of knowledge about them that I shouldn't have, and that someone of that age probably shouldn't have as well. I'd be tuning into these people. And it was usually quite dark stuff that I was usually drawn to. And I realised that's probably because of
these
my
people on the
dark
bus, would
side.
they're alive? There are people alive.
They're people that are alive. I can
We used
remember
to
one
do
of
it
them
with
very
people that were dead. Well, that's very similar, but they would, yeah.
yeah. But I remember,
No
and
ideal.
many years later, as you'll probably know from your own training, you know that if that information's coming to you, that energy, and you're not passing it on to someone, that energy's sitting with you, isn't it? When that energy should be coming to you and then going to someone else. But I'm sat next to strangers on a bus, and never in a million years should a medium ever got to a complete stranger and just start blabbing out stuff to them.
Oh,
Even
absolutely.
even if it was appropriate stuff, which it wasn't. The type of stuff I had was very, you imagine me as a child and I'm sat against an adult, and I know that person has lost a child. I know that she's grieving. I know that she's going through some very dark time, but I knew it wasn't mine. It wasn't my knowledge. It wasn't mine to have. So until I started getting to probably the age of about 12, 13, I didn't see spirit as a young child. I just had the dreams, the feelings, and then all of the, I suppose I was probably tuning into their energy, their auras, and getting all that information off of them. I mean, I think I was about 13 years old when I gave my first reading, completely untrained. Someone just knew I was the strange girl and come and got me and was like, I've just seen something in my house. You need to come and help me. And it was really interesting that many, many, many years later, that same lady came back to me and told me that everything I said to her was true.
Wow.
Didn't
Think
even confirm at the
yeah,
time.
as readers and as mediums that we we're not egotistic, but it's nice when you get clarification back, even when you do a one-to-one reading and they say, "Oh, that doesn't make sense." And I said, "Well, just take it, see what happens." And then someone will come back and say, "Do you know what? I really couldn't take on board what you said, but this happened and then that happened. And you were right." And I go, "Well, yeah, we're not like right. We can't help the information we're getting, and we can't just go, oh, I won't tell them that bit." I mean, obviously there are times you have to be a bit diplomatic, but if you're getting random information that makes no sense to you, you've still got to give it to them, haven't you?
Yeah.
And I think the fact that when it is verified, actually not for us, but for them, they actually then go, "Oh yeah, actually that made sense." So I had
And
a
so
bit of a different
yes.
experience on the bus. My first spirit was but I was around 5. It was a man in the garden who was dressed in like World War I clothes. But my mum kept telling me it was my imaginary friend. Wasn't really helpful at the time. And I used to feel people on my bed. But at the time, I shared a bedroom with my brothers, and because it was my nan who lived with us. She had the big bedroom, then my mum and dad had the other bedroom. We were all cooped up, in the little box room, and our beds literally went like touching each other around the room. And I often would wake feeling someone in my bed and go and jump in with my older brother. And at the time, I never realised that was the reason, because it once I got older that I started piecing things together, thinking, no, you weren't waking up for no reason. There was someone there. But my mum was a bit scared of what I was saying, so she kept sort of low key and just kept telling me I was just very over imaginative. And then when I got to my teens and I started senior school, I just lost my nan, who I was really close to anyway, who lived with us. And then we found out my dad left, and then we found out we had to leave the house and move, and we were basically homeless. And that was quite a lot to cope with at 13. And I started getting on the bus going to senior school. Those were the days when I had the bus fare, because then I used to save it to go to the pub. But that's a whole different program. And seeing people on the bus that weren't, but I knew they weren't there because I'd be looking around the bus thinking, is anyone else seeing them? And they were not full on proper people, but there was just something, like you said, Polly, not pixelated, but there was just slightly something about them that I knew they weren't solid.
Yeah, yeah. It's strange,
It was
isn't it? Because,
strange
when
seeing.
you look at it, I mean, some people that we know, and other mediums, I mean, all us mediums are slightly different in the way we work anyway. But I mean, some people claim to see them as solid as, a person. I don't see them like that.
Later,
Yes.
I did see him solid, and it's only now that I don't see him solid again. I think on the bus, it was more because when I say on the bus, I'd be sat with my best friend, bless her, who passed nearly 10 years ago herself. But we'd be on the bus chitter-chatting to school, and there'd be these people, just random seats, keep sitting in, and one minute someone's there, and the next minute they're not. Then there'd be someone in the other seat. I mean, if it was rush hour, the seats were full, so they weren't sitting on anyone's lap. So I knew they were past because they weren't there. They were only there for like seconds or minutes, and then someone else was there.
Are you sure that
And
wasn't the LSD jokes?
I hadn't reached my drug stage at this point. I was a very good, if anything, stroppy child. I was quite a withdrawn child, typical Virgo. I was all about, oh, get away from me and all that. And obviously going through such massive emotional trauma at home, I was becoming more and more probably with a big chip on my shoulder. In fact, I think I had a big sack of spuds on my shoulder at this point because I thought the whole world was against me. So it was weird because it was my point, and these people were showing themselves to me. And I was a bit like, we've talked about this before, where looking back, I don't know how I didn't go down a mental health route because of what I was seeing and coping with. But what I was perceiving to my friends is like this, I'm the leader of the gang sort of person as we went into our teens. And also not having anyone to support me in what I was seeing. I don't know how I stayed sane. Maybe I didn't. And maybe I need to look at myself in the mirror now. Who knows? But it was quite a weird scenario. And I kept trying to bat it back, thinking, no, you're not there. But they were constant. And even my own nan came and sat on my bed to tell me it wasn't my fault when she passed. And that's when I started thinking, okay, this is getting more and more surreal. And it just sort of kept going from there. But I batted it back and didn't want to have anything to do with it. I just wanted to be a teenager, a bit of a rebel, just be a normal person doing normal things. But it was weird. And I look back now and think, did I prolong my journey? Because obviously I finally went out and did it 10 years ago, but that was from trauma. That was from a lot of stuff going on in my life. Trauma does seem to bring you out more spiritually, doesn't it? So, okay,
Yeah, Jane, just quickly, is it recording?
it is recording, yeah.
It's just a different setup and it's not showing here that anything's happening. But yeah, no, I
It's
think
recording and it has gone to Facebook on my if anyone's watching on Facebook, it has gone to Facebook, for some reason on a reel again. I've tried to make it public, it wouldn't let me, but it is live on my Facebook page if you both wanna look at it on another device, but you're both
that's
on your
fine.
phone, I think, so
No,
it
just
can't be.
checking because it's just different. It's different layout.
Yeah, it is,
So
it's definitely live, so every word we're saying, there is no editing on this bit. Every word is being going out live. I'm just not sure why it hasn't gone public.
Bryony,
I mean, I've got a lot of followers, so hopefully they're looking anyway.
so Bryony, what sort of obviously we've established that you've sort of had similar. We've all had similar experiences, but in different ways, as in growing up, for example. So, what inspired your books? What was it that made you think I've got to write this book about this? So, is there any specific books of yours? 'Cause I'm not a reader because I'm a right dyslexic, to be fair. So if you're on audio, I'll read that. I'll hear your books instead. But for example, was there a book of yours that has really, like, it really talks about your spiritual self, your spiritual journey, for example?
Well, not to be a politician, but spiritualism's in all my books, if I'm honest,
Yeah.
apart from the one that's about publishing, because they're all based on my life. So therefore, it's always been part of my life.
Hmm.
The original question of what inspired me, I mean, I did have people who would usually turn around to me when I would share a bit of my life story and they would go, "Oh, you should write a book about that." But I think that's quite a common thing when you say something unusual or something you think is normal and you're like, ha, that reminds me of being kidnapped and tied in the cupboard. And they go, what? And then you realize it's not. And people are like, you should share that. Most people haven't been through that type of stuff. So I did have people saying that type of thing to me, but that's not what made me start writing a book. I was meditating and I was doing something that I called bargaining, which I used to do all the time, which was I used to say, look, I'll give up all the things in life that are great. Just tell me what I'm here on this earth plane to do so I can crack on with it and I'll do it. That's what I used to say. And I had the inspiration that I just had this overwhelming feeling that I had to start writing about my life story. I didn't even think about publishing the book. I didn't think about anything to do with that. I just literally was sat with my laptop and constantly, it was just flowing out of me faster than you can imagine, which most people struggle with writing at speed or continually writing. And then when the book came to be published, I had no idea that it was gonna blow up or have the effect on people the way that it did. And my first book is proofread, but it's unedited. So I wouldn't let the actual publishing company change it. They were like, "Oh, if we put it this way, it's gonna be easier to read if we change." I'm like, "If it's a spelling mistake, fine. If it's a grammar mistake, fine, but keep it as it is." And I think that really is what touched most readers is the fact that it's
Mm.
like having a conversation with me, and
Yeah.
it's all the ugly truths, the stuff that you think inside your head that you don't tell other people. And I think that in a world where people are on social media showing their perfect tans and their perfect bodies and their perfect lives, let's have a bit of realism amongst all of that,
And they're
shall we?
perfect
So
meals.
mine,
Yeah.
yeah.
If I was
So
posting my meals, they wouldn't be perfect.
I released that book. It done really well, which I didn't expect it to do because I didn't think about it. And then people started saying to me, "We want to know more about your life as a spiritualist." Because I put it in the book, knowing that it could put some people off. Because there are some people that still think spiritualism is witchcraft and it's this, that, and the other, and all this hoodoo voodoo stuff going on. Obviously, that's a completely different religion altogether. But there's some people that think that. So I did put in there that I'm a spiritualist, but I didn't put any more information in there. And then I released my second book, Conversations with the Dead, which is about growing up as a child in a Catholic household, my experiences with spiritualism, how that was affected by the drugs and the alcohol, which is when you said about the mental institution earlier, that's when I come this close to that. And then how I went on to develop and train groups all over and had a complete 360 turnaround and actually started taking it seriously and trained for it. And that book went to number 2. So it done really,
Wow.
really well. Yeah. And then my books just continued from there. And then the next book I would say is quite a spiritual book that I released is Born Again, A Spiritual Journey Through Reincarnation. And what inspired me to write that book, and you'll get this as mediums, is people always say to you, if there's really a power above, no matter what it may be, then why do we have murderers, rapists, domestic violence, famine? They ask all these common questions. Why was my baby taken away from me when she was 5 months old? Why was my Johnny taken away from me? All these questions come in. So the book is about an entity coming down to the earth plane, learning in its limited form, and then coming down in different forms again and again until it becomes a human and then goes through human forms. And I answer all of those complex questions within the book.
Wow.
So it's designed to engage people with their higher thinking. And when I write all these books, I meditate and open up and lift my vibration.
Mm.
And to give you a perfect example of that, I told everyone that I was writing a thriller book. I have written 2 thrillers so far, but this is after 1 thriller. And I was going, yeah, it's going to be a thriller about a kidnapping. It's going to be brilliant. And then when I sat down, what came out was a healing journey, healing the body, mind, and spirit. Because they went, no, that's not what you're writing. That's not what's needed. You're going to write a book about healing. And that book went to a bestseller within 12 hours. So they obviously
Wow.
they know what's needed, and they know it's got a certain audience of people that need to hear it. So even though I have plans of what I'm going to write, it's not necessarily up to me. So
Oh,
I'm not
no.
channeling, I'm doing inspirational writing.
Oh, that's quite interesting. I mean, obviously, I've got those books. I'm halfway through the conversation with the dead. I'm interested in the born. What was it called?
Born
Born
again.
spirit, born again, because the entities. Me and Polly do our spirit release work, so we remove certain things in the line of entities, and a lot of people look at us and think we're crazy, but the results speak for themselves. The addictions, the mental health, the traumas that people are going through are all involved in what we do, and it is really fascinating. And
Past lives.
the past
Yeah.
lives, I can't
Yeah.
believe how much we delve into past lives. And actually, whichever one of us isn't in trance, even just sitting there doing the facilitating, we're getting past life information still sitting there. We're not even in trance. So the whole thing's really evolved with us. But I love all that work anyway. And that has turned a few people going, what? You're doing what? It is fascinating. And that's what we were saying with this show. Why is there life after death? We believe there is. But we also believe there's more than us here. There's other
Mm.
things that are around us, and we've got to stop being so niche and thinking that we're the only people here on Earth, and there isn't other things going on. There isn't other planets maybe doing things. Why do we always assume we're the only people here? And if
Why
there was
do we why do we assume that everybody walking the earth plane is human or even half human?
that's
Because
not fair. We're doing a
that's a
repertoire
whole.
show, and
I
let's not bring
mean,
politicians back into it, Polly. Oh, I'll get banned. I might get banned for saying that. Better take that back. But it is fascinating, and until you start delving into things like that, or you read a story and start thinking, "Oh my God, that could happen." And I mean, I do love reading. I think that's why me and you, we were sat next to each other all day at that event we were at, and I just loved listening to your story. You were very infectious. Some of your story, your early days, obviously resonated with me, with my own son that was going through problems at the time. So I've always got a rapport with that because I understand how hard that is. But also, I just love books, especially books that, like you said, come from the heart. And I'm glad you went, no, I'm not having it changed, because for a laugh, and it was for a laugh, me and Polly are always saying we should write a book. I think if I wrote a book, it probably would still be being wrote by the time I died, for how much stuff has gone on in my life. So we put it in what is it, GTPT, which
oh,
I
we
hate.
just put a few
Yeah,
sentences about.
absolutely hate AI. I really do. But we did it for a laugh. You did it first, wrote a sentence, then I did it. And what came back was a bit scary, because it came back a little bit more detail than what I gave it. And I actually thought, I don't know that. Because there was actually add-ons that made sense to some of that question that I hadn't put in. And we laughed. You could write a whole book on ChatGTP, but where's the realism in it? Where's the heart and soul in it? Because ChatGTP is doing it for you.
As an indie author, I don't think it's wise to get me chatting about AI, because we get pirated all the time, and this
Yeah.
is a big thing in the author world at the moment, is about
Mm.
people using AI for covers. That's fine, but people using AI to actually write books, and they're trying to replace us. The fact that most of us, including myself, have had our work stolen to actually train AI, and therefore there's court cases going on all over the world, but us little ones here aren't actually involved in
Yeah.
that court. I'm involved in one, actually, if I'm honest, but AI is something that we're all finding we've all got very different views on, but the majority of the view is we don't want them trying to take something away.
No.
Now, you can easily tell the difference between an AI book and a book that's written by a human being. You can, even though it's training off of other people. But when you're reading a book by an author that you like, you can tell their voice, you can hear their language,
Yeah.
their pacing, the way that they are. And for an AI to take that and put that into other people's work, it's not something I personally agree with. I'm definitely against it. And I put it in my books now that this is copyright. You cannot use it for AI. So it is something that us authors are struggling with. And it's a big change in the world of books. So it's probably best not to talk to me too much about it. But if you know
Well,
very interesting,
no, I get it.
In your book. You best read.
I can help you write a book. Don't you worry about that.
And make some tips, because we did it as a laugh. I mean, I am really anti it. And again, in our spirit release, we remove AI stuff. So we know that AI in the wrong hands is dangerous as well. But we did it for a laugh. But I said to her, I mean, when I send this to YouTube, when this recording gets edited, so this is live, obviously, but it'll get edited to go to YouTube, AI will give me some description for it. And I look at it and I go, oh, I'm not happy with that. Oh, I'm not happy with that. And they're literally, some of their spelling is atrocious as well. I do need to correct them on that. And I actually reword it for AI because I think, no, that's not. So it's funny. But then I was well educated. I was very good at English, actually. I might not speak it very well, but I was very good at it. I went on to uni. I worked in the uni for years. So I was at a standard where I had to make sure presentation was correct. I might not look the part, but I certainly could do it on paper behind the scenes. So for me, I'm a bit old school. And all this plagiarism that we always had to look out for in the uni, now you've got AI doing it anyways. But we won't talk about AI any further because obviously that is a whole different subject.
Well, take that onto a different show. I'd like,
me and
Jane.
Polly, we'll write our books properly and we'll take tips from you when we do it. So getting back to our, we all agree that we know there is life after death, but many people, even when we have clients come to us, even whether it's healing, readings or anything, still have an element of thinking, well, they're not really here, are they? They're not really watching me. Or they go, well, where are they then? And so there's still an element of people wanting readings and healing, but actually still don't get there is another world part when you pass. It's just the vessel we're using.
Jane, I'd like you to divulge, because I'm not sure if you have divulged it wholly, and it still makes me laugh, even though it's not really that funny, right? Well, it is a bit funny, but
Anything makes me laugh.
your near-death experience. Talk about that. Do you know about this, Bryony?
No.
Right.
So for years I didn't talk about it. So when I was 40, I had a hysterectomy. I was quite happy to have a hysterectomy. I'd already had 3 children. I had some problems that came quite suddenly. And when they finally realised how bad it was a case of life or death. I had to have that out. So I wasn't one of these women going, oh no, I'm not going to be whole again. I was like, yeah, do that. I've had 3 kids, have it. So I had my hysterectomy. I was a bit nervous about the surgery. I wasn't at the time I'd not really had surgery and I was a little bit scared. And I knew it was going to be a big surgery, but we had private healthcare, me and my ex-husband at the time. So off I went to Bupa to have my surgery. And suddenly I'm awake and I can hear noises like the beeping of crash machines and stuff like that. And the rooms, and I know when people say, oh, there's a bright light, well, because there's a bright light, you're under an operating table with a great big light beaming light on you. So I'm going to have to say for that, that's really real. That because you're under a bright light. But I suddenly see myself on the table and they were doing crash on me. And I'm like, but you're not, I wasn't high. I was actually sort of a little bit level. I was sort of floating. But if I was truthful, I don't even know if I had a waist down any body because I was more about the top bit. And I was only just slightly above looking at myself and I'm going, that's me. What are they doing to me? And then from nowhere, both my nans, who were totally different characters and probably didn't really like each other, were by my side. I didn't so much as see them as I felt them. I felt and smelt the difference in them. I could almost feel the difference of how they were both with me as a nan. And they were with me going, no, it's all right, you've got to go back. And I went, go back where? What am I doing? Where am I? And I was like, typical me arguing. Well, what are they doing to me? Why am I here? So my nan, my dad's mum, I went, you've been dead years. What are you doing? Because at this point, I was still ignoring my spiritual journey. And then my lovely nan that lived with me, this is even funnier. She went to the spiritualist church for years and my mum failed to tell her about my visions and failed to tell me. She's saying, you need to go back. I had work to do, Jane. And I went, you left me when I was 13. So I'm having this conversation about her. And she's going, Jane, go back. It's not your time. And I went, when will be my time? She went, you will live quite a long life. I thought, oh, shit. Great. I've already had a load of crap. Will it get better? And that was it. And then I came to in recovery and the clock was back to front. It was like I was in Aston in Wonderland. The clock was back to front. Everything looked like mirror image. And then I went passed out again and then I came back again. And then I started realising I was back, so to speak. Anyway, when I got wheeled back to my private room with champagne, like you're going to drink champagne after you've had surgery, my husband was petrified. He literally looked at me and went, "Where you been?" I thought, "Well, surgery. Where do you think I've been?" And he went, "You've been gone hours." And I went, "Well, it was a big, they said it'd be hours." He went, "No, Jane, you've been gone over 3 hours longer." So I'm like, "I don't know." And then I asked, my surgeon came to speak to me, but suddenly it all came back. And he went to tell me about the surgery. And then he went to say there was I put my hand up. Now I'm on oxygen. I've got a colostomy bag on. I've got a catheter in. I've got a drain of blood in. Sorry if anyone's gorish watching this. I am literally all wired up. I've got morphine on drip. I thought, I'll take it. I'm in pain. But as soon as I knew he was going to say to me there was a problem, I shut him down and went, "I don't feel very well." And that was it. I didn't want to talk about it. Anyway, a couple of days went by. Me being me, I got up, took my own medication back to the nursing station, trying to get myself discharged. Who cared? They cut my stomach open. And I told no one. I literally went home thinking, no, it's got to be the drugs. It's got to be the anaesthetic. So I didn't even tell my husband. And I never kept anything from him. Not anything. We had a good relationship till he done a runner. But I truly would have told him, but I didn't. Something stopped me from telling him. So 8 years went by. This is how stubborn I am with my spiritual journey. And my friend desperately wanted to see a psychic, and someone had recommended this woman over Waterlooville. And I said, "All right, I'll drive you and I'll come with you. But I don't want a reading because it wasn't something I did. I did as a teenager, didn't really do." And we spent 4 hours in this woman's house. I felt like I'd had a cleansing, healing, and God knows what else. I think I felt like I'd been baptized when I come out as well. And at one point, she started giving me messages, and I wasn't upset about it because it was quite accurate. But then she suddenly looked and went, "Which one of you was on the hospital bed?" And she literally described the whole scene. And I'm sitting there thinking, "Nah, nah, nah, I'm not having this." And I could feel the tears welling up my eyes and they were starting to come down my face. And my friend punching me in the thigh to get my attention. I'm not even looking at her. I ain't even told her, my oldest friend. And she's going on, and I'm thinking, "Oh, how's she doing this? She's reading my mind." This is what I was thinking about this psychic, which I often wonder, is that what I do with people? And then she went, "Jane, why are you not answering me? Because I know it's you." And I just had tears pouring down my face. This complete stranger 8 years later relived my near-death experience. Then I come out and told everybody. Couldn't shut me up. Couldn't shut me up. But she told me, "You must stop doing this and get back to what you were born to do. You are meant to be doing this work." I laughed in her face and she wrote on a bit of paper, "Truth, love and compassion." And I went, "What's that?" She went, "That will mean something to you one day." I became a Rouhani healer and went on to do teaching. The symbol of Rouhani is truth, love and compassion. This
Mm.
woman literally bared my soul spiritually. And I have to say, I probably could thank her because she probably unlocked the key a little bit to get me going. But that near-death experience, I honestly thought was all in my head.
Well,
And
it clearly wasn't.
I've gone on to have more.
Well, Tuesday's another day.
But do you want the alien one? Because you did find that funny.
Well, that was the one I thought you might be talking about. We'll
Yeah.
do a quick one just so we can.
The alien one was when I broke my legs nearly 6 years ago. I woke up from surgery and I had about 10 little blue aliens. And if anyone remembers the Smash advert, the little
Oh
split,
yeah.
they sort of
Really
look like
fast,
them, but
get
they were,
fast.
and they were only a little 3 foot, and they were all round my bed. And I sort of shut my eye and went and looked at them again. I went, "Oh no, you are actually here." And they went, We are here to heal you. You will be better." And that was it. But it turns out when I go under in surgery, I'm not good with anaesthetic. I'd actually do crash. I've now been told that respiratory crash. I'm allergic to anaesthetic. But those people, my nans and the aliens, maybe they were my guides, who knows? I called them aliens because they didn't look human to me, were there to prevent anything happening to me. So quite funny, but actually quite surreal. And again, a story that people look at you and go, you're back on drugs, Jane." But I wasn't, because I only ever smoked cannabis, so I can't have been back on drugs. Yeah, really quite an eye-opener. And I think that started making me realise how much we really do not know what is around us and going on. And none of us are going to know really, are we, till we pass.
So, Bryony, have you had any near-death experiences?
I haven't had any near-death experiences, as in floating above my body or seen aliens or anything like that. I've come very close, and lots of people have tried to take my life before. So I definitely feel like there's been people that have been watching out for me. Even multiple doctors over the years have said that I definitely shouldn't still be alive. So there's definitely been someone looking out for me. But it's
Wow.
interesting listening to Jane's story. And I keep thinking about, I mean, I've read books about different people's experiences of life after death experiences, and then obviously they've been brought back and how there's similarities. And then you've got the people that say, well, actually, it's the little function still going through the brain that makes people feel like they're seeing this or they're smelling that. And it makes me think of the film Flatliners, you know, when they keep putting themselves under further and for longer and longer and longer because they're so obsessed with actually finding out what's there. And I think the bottom line really is just, what do you believe is there? And it doesn't necessarily mean you have to believe in spiritualism. It could be absolutely anything. But I think for anyone to think that we are the top, we are where it ends, I think
Mm,
that's just,
Naive.
for me, that's quite outrageous to think that that's it. We're the top of everything. There's nothing else after this. I think there's so many unexplains, and I think that's the beauty of life, isn't it? If you have the answers to everything, then you've got nothing to aspire to, nothing to learn, nothing to reach for. And I think
absolutely.
there's beauty in the unknown. I think that's a wonderful thing. I've studied many different religions, and even though I'm here as a medium and someone who has been a spiritualist for many years, I'm not naive enough to say spiritualism is the correct religion or that that is the answer, because I'm still open to the thought and ideas of, what if there is a power above us and it will show themselves to you and communicate with you how you feel comfortable.
Mm,
Therefore, it could mean that every religion on some level would be correct, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
And
I think that because I think that it's a shame there's so much hatred and negativity at the moment with religions and cultures, because culture and
mm,
religion are the same thing. And it's a shame because to me, we're all going to end up in the same place. Whatever we believe, I think we're going to
mm,
end up in a,
mm,
we are, and we're all going to suddenly go, oh, yeah, because obviously we're a
mm,
soul and that's where
yeah. The
especially
one thing I don't like is the fact that with religions, I mean, some would say anyone who worked in a spiritual way was doing the devil's work and this, that, and the other. And I probably said before that one of my best moments so far, I mean, I've done some amazing readings over the years. I've had ones that were really hard work. You know what I mean? I've had all sorts of readings, and you could probably, say exactly the same. But my most interesting one, usually they happen, everyone's pleased, off they go, etc. But the one that really sticks out religion wise is the fact that I brought somebody through who kept saying JW, JW, JW on repeat. And the girl opposite that was come for the reading, whose dad was showing me JW. First of all, in my head, I'm thinking that must be his initials, and then out. I mean, she wasn't. I mean, been brought up Jehovah's Witness. Do you know what I mean? But she wasn't a practicing Jehovah's Witness. She'd got to an age in her life where she decided that's not what she wanted, and she wanted to go experiment with whatever, and just do her own thing. But she nearly fell off the chair because I'd bought a. And she, like, first of all, she looked like she was going to laugh. Then she looked like she was going to cry. You know what I mean? It was almost like this moment of what's going on.
that's the beauty of it. We know this. Even when we
Yeah.
do demos and people go, my dad or my mum didn't believe in this. It's normally a dad. It's very rarely a mum. And you go, yeah, but they do now, because now they're a soul. They're back to a soul. They can see and hear everything. I mean, again, we have to tell them not everything. There are times you can have your privacy, but it is really hard, isn't it? And that's what I mean about when you do readings or you give messages in demos. People really struggle how their
Mm.
loved one is doing that when they absolutely detested this work, or they were a devout Catholic, or they were this,
Or they thought it was
and
just a massive load of crap.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And here they are.
Validate that they are actually there then, doesn't it?
I do find it fascinating, and the readings I love as well are when they might be thinking of one person that they want to come through, and I do give people the option, if they want me to try and get a certain person, I'll certainly try. Right, if that's what they really want me to do, I'll have a bash at anything, me. Um, but then you'll like have one that randomly comes through who they're not thinking of and not asking about, and it's happened. It happened today in a reading, and this person literally, it's their funeral next week, the next couple of days, and they weren't thinking about that person, thinking that they wouldn't come through because it was so
Mm.
recent. We did get the other person through, but we sort of had to go the other way for that. But, the fact that that's not what they came for, not because they don't want to hear from that person, they just wouldn't have thought in a million years that person would
No.
have come through.
You do get that as well, don't you? I'll get either, "Oh, they've been gone years, you won't be able to get them," or "They only went last week." There's no rhyme or reason to why I mean, I've brought some very random things and names out, and I don't know why they choose me, and then other times I can't get them where Polly could. There's, I suppose, the question as well with, people. Do you really think I mean, more and more people are much more interested in this line of work there. I mean, I went to London, I shared it on Facebook yesterday. I went to London Thursday, has a Mac in the window, and
I
it's the
saw
Wide
that.
Awake tarot card pattern. Whole Burberry Mac is Wide Awake. Now, I think I'm a pretty good tarot reader, but I don't think I'd put the Burberry Mac on and walk through town going, "Hey, I'm a tarot reader." I then was on the train coming back to Portsmouth, and I went past a banner, I think it was just outside London, and it was Netflix showing tarot cards, but with different things in, advertising things. There's more and more people interested in this work. There's more and more people interested in the supernatural, the unknown, and stuff like that. So why are they still so shocked that there can't be life after death?
I think I don't know. I think like I feel that we evolve as far as we're supposed to evolve. Some people are going to evolve in a whole different way, and some people are going to still be sort of, let's say, walking behind playing Earth. Does that make
Mm.
sense? They're going to be playing humans. And I don't mean it in any derogatory way. If that's what their life plan or their life purpose is to do, that's fine. Then that's what they need to do. You can't make somebody believe something. Sometimes it's fear and they don't want to believe something due to fear. Sometimes they have been brought up in a very religious household and it's supposed to be a sin. And some people are very scientific and they're thinking of physics and chemistry and what have you. And we're obviously more in the metaphysic of zone of there's something and there's things that you can't prove, but maybe we can prove them to a degree. But for the evidence that we're giving,
Yeah.
but I do feel like there's an element of your life, that maybe some people aren't supposed to be going down
They
this route.
are. That's what I'm saying. More people are going that way. Bryony, you said you were brought up in a Catholic household. How was that? Knowing from my own dad's side, we're very Catholic-y back in the day. Well, actually, probably my mum's side because they're Irish, so they're probably definitely Catholic. But how was that? Because I've had a client that was Catholic that then went to paganism, back to Ida, and then went back to sort of religion, but went to the Church of England, and then had spiritual stuff always in the thing. For me, everything's spiritual. So, but that is one of the strictest religions I remember growing up. How was it for you to suddenly go,
Well,
guess what? See dead people.
this is going to sound quite dark, but I didn't really have the religion side pushed on me. It was more to do with the punishments. For example, my dad would pin us down, look in our eyes, and he'd say, "If you lie to me, I'm going to see the devil flames in your eyes." And he was very strict with us, but he didn't push his religion onto us. He didn't make us go to church and things like that. As I got older, I never said anything to do with spiritualism to my father. Never, because I knew that's not something that I could do with him or talk to him about. And then when I become an adult, my niece's son, he had a naming day at the Temple of Spiritualism down Southsea. And I invited a family member from Ireland, one of my cousins, and he's like, "I can't come inside the church, but I will come." And then at the reception afterwards, he took the baby off and he said he baptized him or something. He'd done something with him. And I was chatting to him, but he's quite open-minded. And I just said to him, he said, "Oh, prove it to me." They, you know what people like. "Oh, prove it to me if it's real." And I said to him, "I'm just going to say red car going around a rural road and granite in the boot." And his face just dropped. And he said that he has that car and he has granite rocks in his boot. And that was all he could handle at that time, if I'm honest. Some of my other family members, well, would refer to me as a witch, if I'm honest. And my books aren't very popular with them for multiple reasons. And that's definitely
I
one of
do
them as
remember
well.
you telling me that. Yeah.
Yeah, very much not popular. But going back to what you said earlier about some people who won't believe or don't believe, you're taking spiritual, let's just call it spiritual beings for human language. You're taking spiritual beings or spiritual energy, putting them onto a physical plane so they can learn the things they need to learn where there's density and corporeal form, and taking the spiritual stuff away from them. And we've evolved so much that we're not living outside in nature and hunting and living with the land. So therefore, we've actually boxed ourselves into these little houses and put ourselves in these little rooms and these little cars and filled ourselves with technology and all these other vibrations that aren't necessarily natural or spiritual. So therefore, we're almost cut off from it. unless you're someone like yourselves that have had someone knocking on the door, showing themselves and giving you that information, then I could see it could be quite easy to not believe that there is this other part, especially when everything tells you that to bake a cake, you need eggs, flour, milk, whatever else you're going to put in it, sugar or something. So spiritualism, which is where you've got something that's made out of nothing and there's no
It's hard,
ingredients
isn't
just
it?
lying around, human
It's an
natural
element
path
of
to,
trust. It's
yeah.
suddenly trusting the unknown, and
Mm.
humans are not designed to do that.
But then a
Coexist, they
lot of a
around
lot of
those things.
people now, certainly in the last however many years, there's so many, especially those maybe seeking something more from life or seeking their own spiritual journey or spiritual self. It doesn't mean they have to have tarot cards. It doesn't mean they have to be a medium. But there's so many people now that, I mean, how many people have we talked to that have got this desire to get away from the technology and get away from all that and grow their own vegetables and have a piece of land? Unfortunately, there's so much bureaucracy that it's very hard for you to buy a piece of land and live in the middle of it. But really, I mean, a lot of people are just gasping to get away from it. And
Well,
I mean,
Bryony, you've got away from it, didn't you? You've got out of
I did. I
Are
did. And do
you
you know
well,
what?
obviously, we don't want any stalkers. You've had one before. We don't want you having any more. And I've actually had a couple, so we could do without that. Have you got a nice place with enough land around you where you're feeling more free?
I live in the valleys.
All the valleys. That's where my nan comes from.
I live in the
The
valleys. I've
Rhondda
swapped
Valleys.
a busy city. I'm still living, I mean, I'm actually moving shortly actually. So we're actually buying a house here now because I've decided I love it here and it's for
Mm.
us. But I literally have 5 minutes traveling to my left and I'm up a mountain with beautiful
Wow.
lakes and rivers and you can walk for and you won't see anything for miles. Absolutely beautiful. I've got 5 minutes. Everyone in Wales is 5 minutes from a river or a waterfall virtually. So that I'm always surrounded by nature. You're a lot more in tune with it. And Wales is set up for people to go
Mm.
outside more, where Portsmouth is set up for pubs and going to where here it's set up for going outside and hiking, walking, getting in touch with nature. And that makes me feel a lot more connected. And when I go back to Portsmouth, which I do on a monthly basis sometimes, if I've got events there, then I go back and I see all the tall buildings and the lack of greenery, the lack of nature, and it makes me feel quite sad. So
Mm.
it was definitely the right move for me, and I'm definitely where I'm supposed to be, and
Good.
it's definitely a beautiful, beautiful place. I would
Well,
highly recommend going somewhere.
my
Oh,
dad
yeah.
spent many of his holidays as a young child, but we went back to see Tom Jones because he's like a family friend. And, actually, there's a story beyond that, but we won't go into that on live. And we went to this pub in Merthyr Tydfil. And there was no one there to serve us. And we were like, and there's a couple of men playing cards, old men talking in their Welsh voice. And then they went, "Oh, you're from the south and all that." Because obviously North Wales and South Wales have got slightly different. North's a bit stronger. And they think South is still a bunch of like, they're more English because they're closer to England. But he said, "Oh, just go and serve yourself. I don't know where they are." And my stepmom was a barmaid. She used to do that as a side job along with her main job. So she was behind the bar getting our drinks. And then someone come in and went, "Oh, I just leave the money on the side." I thought, "Oh, this is a place I need to be." But I think I was taken back being in my nan's hometown and Merthyr being next door, how much the mining industry affected them and how that
Oh,
really, yeah. But
yeah.
they've got some beautiful buildings, but a lot of buildings that are becoming derelict because obviously the money dried up. But yeah, I think when I went to Wales, I did feel like that was a part of me because it is part of my family
Yeah.
heritage. When I went to Scotland, I felt that also because that's another part of my heritage. So I'm doing Dublin this year and I'm hoping I'll get the Irish part of me because I'm a little bit Celtic all over, really. But it is, I mean, you want to go and get some land, don't you, Polly? That's your dream.
I'd love to.
I lived in the lodge. A lot of people knew that. It wasn't in the country. But then just being in the lodge made me feel like it was my haven. Being back in a
Mm,
house has made me feel a bit restricted at times. I still think I'd want to be somewhere with peace. And I don't think Portsmouth's the answer for me
no.
now. But for now, it's where I am because I needed to take my son back home, and that's what I did. But it is funny, isn't it, what we crave? Because we
Mm,
make our own peace, really, don't we? Doesn't matter where we
mm.
are.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can sit in your garden. You could put in my shed at the end of the garden where I do all my work. I mean, that is so protected. And so it's a shed. It's a shed, but it's like, it's done out all nicely with all my spiritual weirdy bit stuff. I feel just as much peace in there as if I was sitting in the middle of a wood or a beach. But it's a different kind of peace sitting in a woods. I spent not last week, the week before, me and my partner went, and courtesy of my daughter, which was very nice of her, bought us a week in, what was it called again? Blackwood Forest.
Black Forest Lodge. Now,
It was
funny you say
amazing.
that, because is this where this book was based on?
Oh, was it?
I don't know. It says bloodshed in the Hampshire cabin.
I'm
There
not
wasn't-
actually legally allowed to say which cabin it was in, if I'm
course.
honest.
There wasn't any bloodshed in our cabin, but it was a lovely, lovely log cabin in the middle of the woods. I mean, we had neighbours that we saw occasionally, you know what I mean? As in throughout the week. We spent a whole week, well, Monday to Friday, just doing the longest walks all through the woods, and it was just stunning. And it was amazing how I can be prone to headaches, probably because I'm not drinking enough, that sort of thing. I didn't have one headache. I didn't have one ache or pain. I didn't have anything. And because there was no stress, and I felt so connected within that Monday to Friday, like, just looking at the trees and looking at, all these mushrooms, and I didn't take any. But,
Which is
there was.
because you've always said to me you like to go to the sea, don't you? Like the beach.
But I am I am definitely a beach
You
rather than.
clearly like the woods and the forest because you've gone into the valleys. I love the woods, but then I'm an earth sign. But if I'm upset, if I got some emotional stuff, I head for the sea. So my ideal home, I always said it'd be somewhere in the Lake District, near where you've got sea one side and the countryside the other.
Yeah.
Because I would then have the choice of when I want to go to whichever one.
Which, yeah.
Right.
I do love the
no.
woods. I do love the woods, but I
Oh,
prefer
yeah,
the
it's
sea.
funny because when you said how much you loved being in that peace and quiet, that's interesting. Because if you'd had it by the beach, would you have been happier? But I want to go there.
Not if there was people on it. If it was like a beach with no one on it, I would have been in my element. I mean, dogs, I can deal dogs all day long. Don't care what dogs come and jump up on me, lick me. I just don't want anyone else to touch me. You know what I mean? It's just like, go away, everybody, and just let me
She
be.
makes a great tarot reader, trance healer, and medium. Anything you would like to add before we wrap up? You're coming to our fair. We are so excited. You are coming to our
Yeah,
fair.
especially coming down to Portsmouth just for your fair.
Jane, can you remind us of the date?
It is oh my God, no. It
11th
is
of April.
11th of April, and it is in Hayling Island where we did our one in October, and we had such a fantastic turnout. We were overwhelmed with the support for the stallholders, because some of the stallholders are our group members, and we were trying to showcase them and give them a little bit of a nudge to, come out of their comfort zone.
Also, we're doing a raffle for charity for Mind.
Yeah, this time it's for Mind UK. It was for Rowan's last time. We're doing Mind UK because obviously mental health is quite close to both are. Rowan's in that. So we're doing that. But we've got great guest speakers, and you are one of them. Are you bringing in your partner along with you? Because he now writes books as well, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he released a children's book with Thinking Bigger Limited back in August, and it went to a bestseller, and it stayed at number 2 because J.K. Rowling's, whose pre-order has been on the number 1 spot for the children's categories of his book, is still on there now for that number 1 spot. But yeah, he done amazing. But yeah, I'll bring him with me, and I'll bring my little registered pet therapy dog as well. But you talking about the guest speakers, I will share
Lovely.
something with you now. I know why I'm on this earth plane. My direction now is my guides want me to help people let go of certain things because there doesn't need to be as much pain as there is in the world. Yeah. So when I've gone through all of my different counsellors, therapies, doctors, and they listen to my story, all of them are just shocked. They're like, the way I function in this world with what I've been through is absolutely unbelievable. Even top counsellors from London have said the same thing. And it's because I have a really good understanding from my spiritual beliefs that I'm able to accept certain things and to actually move past them. So when I come as a guest speaker, I will share some of my story, and I will share some of the enlightenment that helps me to accept and let go of trauma. And I don't know anyone who hasn't been through any trauma. But if anyone is holding on to something and wants to be happier, which I believe is everyone in the world, then that speech or that session or that talk will be beneficial to so many people. And that's what my job is, through my books, through my words, through my coaching, through my classes. I've even been into schools delivering sessions for mental health and drink and drug addiction. I'm here to show people that you can move past these things and they don't need to stand in the way as a barrier for you being happy and for you to actually let go.
No.
That's what I'll be chatting about. So
That's why I asked you to be a guest speaker, because I obviously do know part of your journey from reading your books and from us talking. And I knew with the charity Be in Mind, that would be a great sort of chat. But also, like I
yeah,
said, I've read two of your books and I'm still working through them. That's because now I don't have as much time to read. I have to read at night and my eyesight's not so good at night because I'm usually tired. But I used to love reading and I've got so many books I'm still trying to get through. But I
and
know
it's so
that people do enjoy those books.
you need to make the time, and I'll tell you why. Not for me, no, but doesn't matter whose book you read. You have to find the time because the health benefits from reading, same as what you were saying, Polly, about being outside. The health benefits of even touching soil,
Yeah.
being in touch with nature, actually having the energy and connecting that through your feet or your soles. The benefits of reading is phenomenal, and it's really
Yeah,
good
it
for
is,
mental
yeah.
health. I mean, two of my books are being used as resources in mental health in the UK and America. And one of them is being used, doctors are referring people to actually read my book. I'm actually working now on a book set in the valleys, and it is about witchcraft. So it's actually a completely different genre. It's fantasy now.
And we all know they like a bit of witchcraft in Wales, don't they?
Of course they do. Of course they
That's where
do. I've been
Merlin
having to
comes from.
Google. I've been
I
having to
like a
Google
little bit of witchcraft.
questions.
I like a little spat
Yeah.
now and then.
But no, honestly, Jen, reading to your children, reading yourself is so important
Mine have
because it
always had
just helps
books.
development. It
Yeah.
helps the brain.
I've
It's really
always
good.
done it. In fact, we were talking about J.K. Rowling. We were talking about her yesterday because my eldest loved Harry Potter when it first came out because he is of the
Mm.
age when she first did it. And he had all the original hardback books. But unfortunately, they're not with him at the moment. And they're up in the loft to the marital home that he can't get to. So we might have to work on that. He absolutely adored the Harry Potter season. I mean, like Lord of the Rings. So I always bought him like the
Mm.
edition, like the edited edition or something. So he had them. So all mine are brought up with books. He's probably the most avid reader, the same as me. My youngest likes to read power books, books on how to make money. Well, it's a generation, I suppose.
Oh yeah.
But, I think for me, you're right. I try and find time in the day. It's been a bit hard lately, but come evening, I am too tired to read. That's
Mm.
just me. But I've always have a book on holiday, one or two, and it's always a book, never a Kindle, because I am an old fat. I like a book. I like
Mm.
when they say don't judge a book by its cover. I do sometimes get drawn in by the cover, but then that's part of advertising.
Of course it is.
But I read the back and then I go, "Oh, that sounds interesting." But I love all different stories as well. There's not anything. I'm probably not into the romance,
Mm.
but I do like a
That's
little.
because you're a hard old cow.
Can I give you a bit? Can I give you a couple of reading tips? How to fit reading into your life?
Yeah, go
So
on.
you know when you go into the kitchen, you put something on. You're like, oh, I've got to wait 5 minutes for it to boil. Me,
Read a
get my
book.
phone. So I have ebooks and paper books. That's it. 5 minutes whilst I'm waiting for it to boil. I'm on the step machine and I'm reading 5 minutes of my ebook while I'm waiting for it to boil. If I go to the dentist, the doctors, where you know you're gonna be sat there for a while, take a book, take my phone. I've got my ebook there. And when I go to work, I make sure I arrive half an hour early and I sit in the car reading for half an hour. So I'm having all that nice therapy and escapism before I even walk through the door. Having it constantly on you when you know you've got 5, 10 minutes, especially preparing food in the kitchen and when you're waiting for things to cook and you go out there and you're about to dish up dinner, I read a bit in between whilst, oh, that needs 2 more minutes, I'll read another chapter. So there's ways to fit it into your life.
There is.
And once you do, it's improve.
Instead, I have your book at my bedside cabinet. I have a book. What is it? Many Lives, Many Masters, I think it is, over on the side. There is books all around my house in different places where I've like, oh, and then I have obviously got my bookcase that I've always had ever since I was young. So like I said, I think for me, I'm rush at the moment, and I've got to start finding time for me again. But
Mm,
I've always read on holiday. If I've gone into hospital, I've taken a book. I've always
mm.
had the book to hand. It always gets packed. Me and Polly are off to Vienna in April. I'll try and pack a book, but they're probably all annoying me because we're sharing an apartment.
I'm
We
just
won't
going to
have
jump on her all the time.
I will never ever stop reading. What I've
No.
got to do is start finding more time for me because I've been doing too much for everybody else and not putting me first. So that
Mm,
is my goal. And although I don't make New Year's resolutions because I don't, and I'm more for like the start of spring is more when I see my year starting and flourishing. That was one of them this year, Find Time. And I've been trying to finish your book. I've made myself try and finish it, not because I've got you on either. And I'm trying, I've put books in order to what to read next. So I'm actually making a conscious effort to do it now because I
You've
love
only
it.
got you've only got a few more to go because you're on the third one. Here's the girl from Pompey.
When I
Only got a few
posted
more
her,
to
it
go.
said 8, and she's actually got 11 with 2 in the making, wasn't it? So I forgot that's how much I did.
I've got a children's book that's waiting to come out for children with sensory issues. We're thinking bigger. I finished writing my first fantasy book, which is at 77,000. But I've started writing the second book because you can't release a fantasy book without having the second one pretty much coming out soon because people they will not like to read it or buy it knowing that the
Wait.
next one's not ready to rock
Well,
and
in
roll.
between,
So
you are reading before you go, and obviously I know what your job is. You haven't actually mentioned that on here, have you? Your daytime job. You're sitting in the car reading before you go into your daytime job, which is quite demanding. And then you're read. When do you write? When do you write?
every day. So my routine at the moment, because I've just left one job, I was doing a part-time job for a charity. I'm now gone to a different charity. So my routine is to get up at 6 a.m. and then to do a 20-minute exercise whilst I take my medication, morning medication, do 20 minutes of exercise, get ready for work. Then I do half an hour of writing with a timer. And then I walk to work for then if I want to walk it, I get more exercise done. Then I'm walking to work. If I'm driving my car, I'm getting there quicker and then I'm going to read more of my book. So that's half an hour of writing every day. I'm a fast writer. And then if I'm on a day off, like today, I didn't have work. So I got up this morning. The first thing I did was sit on my laptop and I've done about an hour and a half's worth of writing. So this week alone, I'm a lot slower at writing with the fantasy book because I'm really thinking about planning and the creativity and trying to remember what colour hair someone had. And all my other books were written from memory, so it's really easy.
Yeah.
But this
See,
is
what you
definitely
mean is you want
slower.
to get J.K. Rowling the first spot, don't you?
Oh,
She's been on
the
there
thing
way
is,
too long.
I'm going to say something now, Jane, that a lot of people aren't going to like. Because people used to say to me when I used to be a sports coach and that I don't have time to exercise. If you want to do something, you will find the time, whether it's getting up an hour early, delaying the TV by an hour, or going to bed an hour later. There's always time to go to the gym. There's always time to read. There's always time to write. There's always time to clean. Sorry to say it, but there is. You will make time for what you feel is important. And that's with everyone in life. It's the same as me. People will find the time for what they want to do. The same as people that say, I haven't got time to come and see you, or maybe long cousins, nieces, nephews, children, grandparents, that people say I'm too busy to go and see them, and yet they've gone out three weekends in a row with a friend, or they've gone out for a work do, or they've done this. It's about prioritising what's important to you. So yeah, I do write every day if I can. At this rate, if you don't hurry up, Jane, then I'm going to write too many books, and you will never catch up. You
Yeah,
will never
Jane.
end.
Well, I don't know whether my guide stepped in there, but it froze and I didn't hear a word you said, and that's not even.
Right, anyway, we're going to have to finish in a second, but Brian, it's been absolutely amazing to have you, and we're so looking forward to you coming to the fair. So looking forward, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in person. Even though I did, but I wasn't sitting next to you at that
Not
particular
like
fair.
me, but that was obviously fate because I enjoyed talking about her books and about life. Where you would have gone, oh, I don't read.
But then if I'm really interested in something, I would. But it's been so amazing having you on. You're so interesting. I could talk to you all day and all night and all day again, literally. Yeah. And everybody, what we'll do, Bryony, is we'll make sure we put a link for you if you've got a website or page. And so if anyone's interested in your books, then they can access them there, or you can give them a bit of a heads up about where
And
they
they're
can find
all on
them.
Amazon, aren't they? They're all
Yeah, they're all on
yeah,
Amazon or from online retailers, but I have
yeah,
got a shop you can buy directly from me, which
yeah.
is on my Facebook page and on
But
my, yeah.
yeah, so we'll pop your details there. And thank you so much again. Thank you,
Thank you very
Jane, for
much for
being
having me.
lovely and sharing your alien experience with us.
Yes.
Well, I haven't wrote a book on that yet, so I might have to say it in person. It'd probably get copyrighted now. Someone will be writing about aliens. Before we go, though, I will say my son designed a really unusual drawing during his probably psychosis moment, so I'm not sure we should use it. And we've converted it into our clearing page, haven't we? The Unburdened Soul is what our page is for our clearings. I am too scared to put it out yet because I don't want someone copyrighting his drawing because it's unique and it's come from his headspace, how he felt at the time. but really does suit our line of work, doesn't it? He's given us
Mm.
permission to use it, and I need to know how to not. So I'm sitting on that. So I might need some tips from that because I don't want anyone taking his drawing. That is his, and not everyone's cup of tea. But it's for me. It reminds me of how dark he was at that time,
Mm.
and
I
he's
think
an
the problem is I mean, I'm lucky everything you write is obviously copyrighted straight away, but there is pirating, and if you
yeah,
put any drawing on your website, people will take it off. They can screenshot, they can
yeah,
download, they can then use it and put it into another program so you're never ever gonna avoid that completely. I mean, I pay 30 something pound a month just for piracy protection. I still get pirated left, right, and centre.
mm.
So it's something that could happen. But I know what you're saying, it's personal, isn't it?
It is
That is
personal.
personal.
He said we
But
could use it, but I'm sitting on it because I think it's personal, and although it might not be everyone's cup of tea, it really actually shows how he felt at that time. Well, Holly, what did you say? Who done that? I went, Lewis, and she went, oh my God, it's excellent, isn't it?
Right, well, we must go.
We will see you in April. Can't wait. And this will, I don't know why this went out as a reel again. Jane needs to do some techie lessons before she does any reading lessons. And I will share this out and then it will go out on YouTube tomorrow. It's Saturday today, isn't it? Because my week's been a blur. On the usual YouTube channel. So if anyone watches this on Facebook, please, please, please subscribe on our YouTube channel. It's free. It is just, just a little ping subscribe. It helps us get noticed. It helps us carry on doing this. And, eventually it helps us get rich. No, it doesn't really.
And with all the cracky algorithms that seem to be a thing.
It's never going to help us get rich, but it would help us getting more out there, and people that have watched it have really enjoyed it, and that's what we want them to do. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Bryony, for joining us, and we will see you all soon. Bye for now.
Bye.